Welcome to another episode of In Your Business. Today we're going to meet with an entrepreneur who's really taken quite an interesting path from an engineering to being an entrepreneur to serving downtown Richmond. This is a fairly new location for him. In the past he's also been in Centerville, Indiana, but he's been serving our region. And so it's going to be interesting to get to know him. I know a lot of our students have already gone in and got to know him, and they're always telling me about him. So I said, what a great opportunity to bring him on the show so I can get to know him. So John Emerick, welcome to the show.
Tim, thanks for having me.
So we want to get to know you as an entrepreneur, get to know about your facility, your retail shop, find out what you're doing, see if you're doing some wholesale, see what you're doing down there.
Sure.
So let's start off with just getting to know you, John.
Okay.
So one of the questions I always like to start with is, as a little guy, when you were growing up, what did you want to be?
I wanted to race professional motocross. So I'm a long way from that.
Yeah.
But that's not a very common career path, I guess, and it's pretty exclusive. So that didn't pan out, obviously. So.
Did you ever get to try racing?
I never raced a motocross. I raced bicycles. I raced BMX bicycles. So.
Okay.
My brother and I both wanted to race motocross. My mother said, "Oh, it's too dangerous," and we said, "Well, how about if we race our bicycles instead?" She said, "Okay, I'll go for that." So I started racing bikes when I was 10 or 11, and I still do. So.
Okay. You still do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you race?
All over the country, really. Mostly east of the Mississippi, but Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Michigan, Indiana,
Okay.
locally, Ohio, wherever. So
I would have never guessed that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
So you're growing up, you wanted to be a racer.
Yeah.
And so then as you become a young adult, what did you study? What did you want to be?
You know, well, I went into the Army straight out of high school. Something about the Army always appealed to me at a young age. So I actually signed up for the Army between my junior and senior year of high school. And I did that for 4 years. And during that time, I loved being in the Army. I wanted to go to school, though. I always felt in the back of my mind that something mechanical or engineering based would be what I wanted to do. And that's what I ended up studying in school. So I got out of the Army so I could go to school and be an engineer. So.
Wow. So then you became an engineer, and let's talk about your career path at that point.
Okay.
So where did you start, and how did that progress to where you're at?
I started at a company in Cambridge City that makes store fixtures called Meg.
Okay.
From there, I went to General Motors in Vandalia, Ohio, and we did airbag systems over there, passenger side airbag systems. I did some modeling work with stereolithography. You and I talked about that briefly before the show, but I did that for a couple of years. Then I came to Richmond and worked for A House Tool for about 4 years and did special machine design. That was great. From there, I worked at CIT in Richmond for a little over a year.
Okay.
And from there, I went to International Truck and worked for them for a couple of years. So.
And then you got into business for yourself.
Yeah, towards the end of the engineering part of my career, I started screen printing on the side. And when I got laid off from my last engineering job, I just decided to do screen printing full time.
Okay.
So
we're going to go into your business now. We're going to
sure.
talk about Circle E Clothing.
Yeah.
And Circle E Clothing is something I really don't know a lot about. I know you have a location on 8th and Main in downtown Richmond.
Yep.
I drive by it just about every day.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I'll be at the light looking at it and thinking, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Which is what happens in business. I like to look at a storefront and wonder, what are they doing? And then come in and find out.
Yeah, sure.
And so let's talk about that. So
Okay.
what year did you actually start Circle E?
I started in '99. I was married at the time. My wife wanted to, we were going to have a child. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and I needed a way to supplement our income if she was going to quit her job and stay at home. So Kessler's had a bike shop in town, and they asked me to put a race team together for them, recruit some riders and put a team together. So I recruited some riders. We ordered jerseys. I said, I want you to print Kessler's on the top of these jerseys for me. They said, we're too busy. We don't have time to do it. And I thought, if you're too busy to print jerseys for your own race team, then I should be in the printing business. My brother is actually a screen printer, so I need to preface that. I had come home on leave one time. He was printing some shirts for Gold's Gym in my grandmother's garage. And I helped him pull the squeegee across some screens. I thought, oh, I know how to screen print. So fast forward to '99, and I had the idea to print shirts. and I thought I knew how to do it. I had absolutely no idea how to do it. But I bought some equipment from a guy in Oklahoma and brought it back, and I set it up in my basement, and I just taught myself how to do it. Basically, I bought a book called How to Screen Print for Fun and Profit, and I just read it and tried it and figured it out. So
It's kind of interesting you did that, because today we would just turn to a YouTube video.
yeah. Oh, it's ridiculous. I wish that was available when I started. But
Yeah?
I saved myself a lot of trouble.
So then basically you started in your basement, is that what you said? And,
Right,
right. And from there, what happened?
We were getting busy enough that we decided to rent a small storefront in Centerville, and we did that. And we did that for about a year. And then I got laid off from my engineering job and divorced. And I had engineering job offers out of town, and I didn't want to leave my boys. They were young, 2 and 4. And so I decided to print full time.
Okay. So was that turning point as an entrepreneur then?
Yeah. It was a good fit for me. I mean, it wasn't anything that I did reluctantly. I was glad to do it. I enjoy doing that. I really enjoy being an engineer and problem solving and that aspect of it. And the creativity part of the engineering process, and then, kind of plays into the creativity part of it's different kind of elements, I suppose, solving engineering problems and being creative for a screen printing, an artwork design or whatever, but still it's an opportunity to be creative. And I enjoy that aspect of it.
I actually see a lot of similarities to it, because here at the university, that's what I do. I teach business, and I have a lot of equipment here. And with this equipment, I'm challenging the students to be creative.
Yeah.
And then they have to come up with designs, and they have to make it happen.
Right.
And so every machine takes something different. So if we're doing 3D printing, we're doing an STL file.
Right.
But then we may be just bringing over a PDF file or some type of JPEG file to actually print on the laser printer or even on the wood carving.
Right.
But it's all about how creative they get to what kind of product they make.
Sure.
And if you make something ugly, nobody wants it.
Right.
If you make something really great, everybody wants it.
Right.
And then that's that whole supply and demand and create
Exactly.
a market. So,
Yeah.
So you've been able to create a market. And so when did you move from Centerville to Richmond?
I actually bought that building downtown in December of 2015.
Okay.
And we moved over there. I bought the building in December. January and February are typically the slow times of the year for me, and I thought this is great because I can spend those 2 months fixing the shop up and getting it ready to go and then open for business. We didn't open in Richmond until Black Friday of 2017. It took that long to get everything. I bought the building in December of 15. We didn't have electricity in the building until August of 16.
Okay.
We actually framed up my offices and the bathrooms, all the stuff that we built in there. We ran an extension cord into the little garden island that's in front of the shop. There's a power outlet sticking up out of there. So, it took some work to get that place up to speed. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty creative, I guess,
Well,
right there, just making that happen. But so then you got the building ready, you got some inventory in there.
Right.
And how does that work? So the inventory that's on the shelf is stuff that you can actually sell to the public. Is that correct?
Right. So we have an apparel store. I have an apparel store. And it's mostly, at this point, just school apparel, although I want to do more than just school apparel. I have a military background. I'd like to put some various, military themed pieces in there, and just some fun T-shirts and different styles of apparel in there as well. But most of the work that we do is for customers behind the wall, stuff that isn't out on the floor, stuff that we do for businesses or schools or that type of thing, the screen printing and some of the sign work and stuff like that.
So if a sports team or a band or somebody needs a shirt, or if they
anything,
need something made, a bag or a towel,
Right.
then they come to you.
Right.
And you're able to do what? Screen print, embroidered?
Screen printing, embroidery, vinyl graphics for vehicles. We actually, if you're familiar with the building, there were 4 windows on the west-facing wall. We took the 4th window out and put an overhead door in there so that we can pull vehicles into the shop and letter the side of them.
Okay.
So we do some of that. Sign work, we can't do large Kmart signs or signs to that effect, but we can do smaller signs for the front of a business or, if you're an attorney that you need something on your wall or something like that, we can do that.
Okay, okay.
Or if you, the little corrugated signs with the H stand that, that say this event is happening or my son is in the band or whatever,
Sure,
those
so
kind
you
of
can
signs.
customize things for
Sure,
individuals,
sure.
everything from a shirt to a sign to a bumper sticker, so just
Exactly.
anything really.
Yeah.
You're using some equipment to do that? You're still purchasing new equipment, I suppose?
Always expanding. So yeah.
Well, that's an important part of an entrepreneur is you've always got to be able to change up, okay?
Yeah, you got to be careful not to invest in just one aspect of any kind of business. I think it's smart to diversify a little bit.
Sure, because you
So-
never know what's going to take off and what's going to turn around.
Right,
So,
right. And there are lulls in one market that, while another market might be thriving, so it makes up the difference,
Sure.
So,
Well, and the other thing about your location, because like I said, I go by there every day.
Yeah.
And I think it's neat that you're wanting to do something in downtown Richmond because certainly, the downtown areas need people like yourself that will actually, take hold of these and make them interesting and get traffic into them. Your windows.
Yeah.
You have gorgeous windows.
yeah, they're beautiful.
So you have some plans for those?
I do. Actually, somebody suggested to me that I should take those windows out and make them smaller, which I thought was ludicrous. I don't know why you would want to do that. They're absolutely beautiful. So I spend a lot of time online looking at different stores that have incredible windows and incredible window displays, and so I'm working on a plan to do that with mine. I haven't really had the opportunity to do that yet, but that's in the works. So
Okay. So we should be watching your windows to see what's
yeah,
coming.
my grandparents used to talk about coming through downtown Richmond. They would do that on a Friday evening or something, or a Saturday evening. They would get in the car and bring the family down and just walk up and down. They didn't necessarily even buy anything, but just to window shop.
Sure.
And look at the windows. And ideally, I'd like to get to a point where people are curious or excited to see what's in the window, what the window's going to look like, or
Sure. Give them a reason to come right through downtown.
yeah, sure,
I like it.
yeah.
So let's continue to talk about you as an entrepreneur, though, because I teach entrepreneurship. And it's difficult sometimes because I can bring in all the books you want, okay? And I teach a lot of different topics. We have the students say, okay, how are they going to do their accounting, how are they going to do their finance, and how they're going to determine their location and their pricing and what they're going to produce and how they're going to market it, where they're going to get it, all those things.
Right.
It's what you do. It's what you do as an entrepreneur. So let's talk about that. So when it comes to doing things like the finance, if you need to change those windows and it costs $20,000, what do you do?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a big issue. I don't have $20,000 for windows just laying around. If I had $20,000 just laying around, I probably wouldn't spend it on windows. I'd spend it on some more equipment to make my business more productive. But there are some grants. I'm trying to get some grants. The Downtown Business Administration is helpful in that regard and is trying to point me in the right direction as far as that goes and develop some leads and some connections.
So great.
Yeah.
So you just have to find the areas that fit.
Yeah,
and
right.
The window improvement would be an area that would fit for a certain type of grant.
Right, right.
And so beyond that, you got to keep your credit score good and
Well,
make
that
sure
helps.
that
Yeah.
you can get the finance.
That's right.
And then what about accounting?
You know what? That's a terrible area for me. I'm not a bookworking guy, so I have people that help me do that. As far as like the day-to-day management of the, I mean, I can create invoices and bill customers and stuff like that, but I have a bookkeeper.
Okay.
So I rely on somebody else to help me with that.
Well, and honestly, that's exactly what I teach in class because while they're taking my class, they're also taking an accounting class, they're also
Yeah.
taking a finance class, and they're taking a marketing class. They're taking these classes. But I don't expect everybody to be good at everything.
Well, I think to a certain degree, if you're going to be successful, you need to know your limits and know when you're, out of your element. So, and I know that's not my thing. So, I'm more than happy to let somebody else handle that, and I don't have the stress of it. I can focus on something else.
They become an entrepreneur also because
Right.
they're an accountant
Right.
and they're taking care of you. So
Exactly.
you need to be able to at least know that you've got a good accountant. So you've got to have
Right.
an understanding of it so you can do that. And then there's the other issues. When I visited your store, you had an intern.
Right.
And so you have to find ways to get people to work there. So whether
Yeah.
it be an intern, whether it be a part-time, full-time employee, whether it be yourself, I mean, there's things that go into HR that
Right.
you have to know about.
Right.
And then there's also things like insurance.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have a responsibility to make sure your customers are safe.
Right. Exactly. There's so much more of it. You start out thinking, oh, I'm going to print some shirts. This is going to be great. And it's so much more than that.
Yeah?
just the things you're talking about. I mean, well, you can't open a business if you don't have insurance, and you have to make sure that you're covered liability-wise, and there's so many aspects of that you don't really think about initially when you think about, hey, let's open a t-shirt shop. So many aspects of it. Insurance is a big chunk of the money that goes through my shop. I mean, that's a big bill. So yeah, you have to wear several different hats. It's not just, I'm going to sit down and create some artwork and then go in the back and print some shirts. There's just so much more to it than that.
Now, do you create the artwork, or does people bring that to you? How does that work?
It depends. A lot of times, there's a term that it's called camera-ready artwork. It's an old term. Back in the day, before computers were big, when they made screens, they used a camera. It's a long process. That process isn't used anymore, but the term still kind of lingers. Rarely do I get camera-ready artwork. People bring me artwork that is not very good quality, so I have to spend time either redrawing it or cleaning it up or making it usable to print. Or they just come to me and say, I have this idea, can you help me create something? And then I sit down. But yes, I do most of the artwork there. So.
Okay. So that's basically the setup. A lot of times we hear about the setup fee or the setup, and so
Right.
the setup is getting it ready.
Right. And we don't typically charge a screen fee. I will charge an art fee, though, if I have to spend any. If it's something that I can knock out in just a few minutes or whatever, I'm not going to really charge anybody. But if I have to spend 2 or 3 hours working on some artwork, then I have to charge a fee. I can't just give up my time. And
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You shouldn't at all.
So
no, I get that. So back to you, though, as the entrepreneur, because you got a lot of responsibility. I mean, owning the building, paying the taxes, paying the insurance, making sure the lights get turned on, make sure the hours are there. How do you set the hours?
It's funny. When my shop was in Centerville, I was open from 9 to 5 through the week, and I literally said on the door, Saturday depends on the weather, because if it was nice, I didn't want to be there.
Oh, okay.
And then we're closed Sunday. Downtown, we're there from 10 to 6, just because 5 o'clock is a little early for people to, we do a lot of stuff, school apparel, and if a parent works till 5 or whatever, then they can't get down there. So it makes sense to be open till 6. And then we're open on Saturday from 10 to 2 as well, just for those people who still can't necessarily get there through the week, have an opportunity to be there. So
basically you set your hours based on what your market demand is.
I think, it doesn't make sense to be open when people can't get there.
Right.
Or it doesn't make sense to be open, like I said, we used to open at 9 in Centerville, not a lot of action, So if I open the shop at 10, I can come in early and get some stuff done before I have to worry about the door dinging and somebody coming there. And,
Sure.
So.
Those are good worries.
Well, yeah. I'm not, yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah. So what about, I think it's very, very difficult in every class that I teach is pricing.
Right.
How do you determine and set pricing?
That's a good question. Richmond's economy is not the same as economies in other bigger cities. If I were in Indianapolis even, I could probably charge a little more for what I sell. But Richmond's economy, I think, is a little more depressed than some other areas. So you have to there's kind of a soft middle there where you're, you don't obviously want to sell yourself short, but at the same time, you don't want to overprice things so that people can't afford to buy them. So we try to find that happy middle. I don't know that I'm answering your question. There are trade magazines that will once a year, they actually publish like what the average cost for one color, one side on a t-shirt, and I'm usually right on track with that. We do one color, one side on a t-shirt for $8.
Okay.
Our minimum is 12. A lot of places won't do less than 24. But if you're a small business owner and it's you and maybe one other guy or something, it's hard to buy maybe 24 pieces. So we try to accommodate people that way,
Okay.
But I think our prices are pretty competitive, actually. If you come in the shop and you want to buy a t-shirt, t-shirts are usually $12 in the shop and they start up from there. But, if you're just buying one t-shirt retail as opposed to buying a dozen or 2 dozen or 75 t-shirts, you're going to pay a little more for the retail thing than you do for the.
Sure, sure. I don't mind you struggling a bit on price, because I'll tell you, that is the hardest thing for me to teach.
It's tricky, I mean, how do you know? And if
Right.
something's not selling, is it not selling because it's overpriced? And you can underprice stuff too, which is, if it's too cheap, people wonder, why is it not?
Sure.
I mean, that's a reality. I don't. I love a bargain, so it's hard for me to relate to that. But yeah, people will. They want to pay for a product and know that they're getting.
Sure, they know what the market is, and
Right.
so basically you're pricing to the market, to what the market will allow.
Yeah, I
and
try
then,
to.
and then making sure you make a profit. I mean, you've got to do that.
Right. I mean, there are some things in there. I have some hooded sweatshirts. I sell a normal hooded sweatshirt in the shop for $25, but I have hooded sweatshirts in the shop that are $50. But they're a higher end, different panels cut into them. They cost me a lot more. But there's a market for that.
Sure.
So you can't be afraid to charge what something's worth either. So
Okay. Well, I know as an entrepreneur, you're not afraid to try new things.
sure.
And I think you have to do that.
Yeah.
And when I was in the store, you had a drum set up over there. You had a little stage in the corner.
Yeah.
And you had some ideas about doing some other things.
Yeah.
So isn't it great to have that independence?
That's one of the things that I really like about working for myself and having my own business is that, I loved being an engineer. I love that. So many aspects of that I really like. I like the independence that I have now. And back to the bicycle racing thing, we'll go to a race and I'll be at a race with someone, or we'll be in staging waiting to race, and my buddies that I race with, I'll say, are you going to this race? Are you going to that race? Only have 3 vacation days left or whatever. I don't have to worry about that. If I want to, obviously I don't get paid if I'm not at work, but if I want to pack up and go to a race, or if I want to go camping or do whatever I want to do, then I can do that. So that's pretty nice. And then, like you're talking about, in the shop, I have the flexibility to, if I want to put a drum set on a stage in the corner of my shop, I can do that. It's
Sure.
kind of nice.
Yeah.
So
Creates a fun environment, fun activity.
we talked about that briefly, but I had the idea to put a drum set in the shop with my logo on the bass, and that idea, just for aesthetics, really more than anything. And that idea evolved into building the stage, and I thought, well, I could put a couple of mannequins on the stage that have a Circle E shirt on them, or whatever. And then so we built the stage, and we've had musicians playing there. During the meltdown, it was a warm-up station. We had different musicians playing in there while people could come in and warm up. And we've moved all the apparel racks out of the way, and we've had yoga classes in the shop, and so it's a great little venue.
And just have some fun sometimes.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
You're the owner.
I can do whatever I want.
That's right.
So
what's been the greatest thing about being an entrepreneur for you? The single greatest thing, if you can think of it.
It's hard to nail down just one thing. Like, the independence part of it is fantastic. It's really satisfying to do something creative, artwork-wise, and then see somebody wearing that shirt, or see your artwork on you'd be out in public. I've seen people in Dayton and different places wearing shirts that I've printed, and that's a pretty satisfying thing. So.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you what's the most troubling thing? What was the struggle about being an entrepreneur?
Well, there are certain numbers that you have to make every month, and sometimes it can get a little lean, and that's a scary part of it. There's no safety net. So, the streets in Richmond have been torn up for over a year, 2 years, and that was very difficult for me. People just could not get to the shop. And so the casual customer wasn't coming into the shop. People would come because I had something that they needed, and they would make the effort to get there. But I had a vendor, when the streets were tore up, send me an email that said, I want to come to your shop, show you some new stuff. I couldn't get there. I'll catch you the next time I come through. That guy wants my money.
Right.
And he gave up. So, the people that I'm trying to sell stuff to can't get there, then they're not going to make the effort. So, that's the scary part of it. That's, the reality of it is you have to,
So you had to find a way. So when people
Yeah.
couldn't get in, you had to get out.
Right.
And I mean, you had to go find the business.
Yeah.
And that's how you survive as an entrepreneur.
Right.
I mean, you got to go out and get busy.
You can't just hope that something's going to happen. You have to make stuff happen.
Right.
So,
One final question for you, John.
Sure.
I always like to ask, how many hours a week do you suppose you work as an entrepreneur? Not just in the store, but putting together ideas, planning, making things happen.
wow. 60 to 70 maybe.
Okay.
I mean, it's always in the back of your mind, even when you go home. My shop in Centerville, I owned that building, and I lived in an apartment above that building, and I could just go downstairs, and I could go upstairs and grab lunch and come back down, and it was harder. I actually like being in Richmond because I can kind of get away from it a little bit.
Sure.
But it's always in your head. It's always on your mind. You think of something. At home, I'll get my laptop out and, send an email, but so you never really escape it,
John, that's what makes a great entrepreneur.
I suppose.
All right. Thank you for coming on the show.
I'm glad to do it. Thanks for having me.
All right. This concludes another episode of In Your Business. Today we spoke with John, the owner of Circle E Clothing in downtown Richmond. He demonstrated to us what an entrepreneur really does. I mean, it's everything. So he's in charge of making sure that the lights come on. He sets the prices. He sets the hours. He even struggles if the street's closed. He's got to go out and find a way to get business in. So whatever it takes is what a good entrepreneur will do. Thanks again for watching In Your Business.